Hi there, Wally here. In today's video, we will learn about API on Red Hat Satellite product. This can give you more flexibility when thinking about administration. Definitely, if you enjoy automation, this is a thing to you. Before we move it on, if you are not yet subscribing to the channel, this is the right moment. Click on the button, hit the bell, allow notification, and once I release a new video, definitely you will get notified. So take a preferred beverage, have a seat, and let's enjoy the video. And here we are. Let's start from the beginning. As you know, I always recommend you to take a look on the documentation because we have all the information. We try to keep all the documentation totally up to date. So let's take a look on this. docs.redhat.com. Definitely you can click on Explore All Products. Click on Red Hat Satellite. And from here, you can press Ctrl F or Command F and search by API. And then you see this guide. So let's click on API guide. I always recommend you to click on this single page because you can see all the information. This is a complete and amazing document with a lot of information about API. One that I like the most is chapter 4, because in chapter 4, this will drill down and will help you to understand how to play with API on Satellite using common stuff like Cur or Ruby or Python. So if you are going to start your journey using Cur, like the bash command, definitely this is a thing. If you have already a knowledge about Ruby, definitely you can go to this section. This is a script that you can definitely copy and paste in your end, and this is a totally functional script. In the same way, if you like to go by Python, definitely you can copy this one, and same idea, totally functional. Just execute it. This will bring back the information that this script is supposed to, and if you like to change according to your necessity, definitely you can. But let's start from the beginning. Let's start from chapter 4, like in the beginning of this topic. This is going to talk about Cur, what is Cur, and some parameters that we can pass along our satellite. Also, this will mention something about header, because eventually we need to specify some headers just to change the behavior on the endpoint. And also this one, we can pass -- data just to pass one information, one file with the data structure that we do have. For example, if I have a lot of information, I would like to skip all the parameters when calling Cur, and then I can just redirect that information to a file. And then, okay, read from this file, -- data, and then there you go. And this one should be in JSON format, as we can see here. For example, -- data add file.json. File.json is the name of the file in this case. We can also verify if that JSON is a valid file or valid structure. Eventually, if this structure is not correct, is not accurate, is expected to fail the whole process according to what you are doing. And from here, there are many more options that you can pass. For example, from here, let's suppose that I'm using my Cur, I'm passing the request get, insecure because I don't have the CA certificate. I can pass my user, and then user column password, and the satellite FQDN, and one API endpoint. This is going to bring the information to me because this will be consuming this API endpoint, and then I can parse this to my python-m json.to. Wally, what is this guy doing? Basically, we have the output as a JSON, and the JSON is like a long line. If I like to see something like this, pretty, then I can use JQ. JQ is another utility. On Satellite Server, definitely you have this one already installed. But let's suppose that you are creating your script in a different machine and you do not have the JQ installed. So definitely you can use Python, calling the -m. -m is the calling for module. And there is one module called JSON and then .to. Then you're just passing this parameter, and then you can see something like this. And from here, for sure, you can play around, you can check the results, you can check all the information from this file and move it on, all right? We also do have some information, some examples. For example, creating a user. In this example, like we can create a user, passing the -- data and some information. See, here I'm not using the file. We are just passing in a CLI. And then you can see the complete information over there. And this eventually can be a little bit painful because you can see all the backslash just to escape the double quotes that are internally. So a lot of backslash. Because of that, I prefer personally use the file. Okay. All right. Again, feel free to take a look on this document, but let me show the way that I like to do this when I'm working with JSON and API specifically. Satellite, we are here in the application, and from here we can click on administer, about, and then on the right side, let me bump a little bit the font size. You can see the complete documentation. This is the link to the external page, the documentation, the one that we saw before. We have this one, API resources. This is the API that you do have in your own satellite. So for sure, if you like to see all the endpoints on this page, definitely you can. But this is live. This is in your environment, your own satellite server. So this is pretty cool. All right. You can definitely take a look. Activation keys, alternated content source, and we have all of them. All the features basically that we do have on satellite, they will be here. Ansible collections, inventory, and you can see this list is pretty good and pretty complete. All right. Just to complement this information, most of the Red Hat products, they work with API. So for example, we have Red Hat virtualization. We do have the API for Red Hat virtualization. Satellite provides API. Most of the products, they will allow you to do some operation using the API. So feel free to take a look at the documentation, and I'm pretty confident that you'll be able to find out the documentation and how to access the API for that specific product. All right, specifically about satellite, again, we do have this in our own documentation. If we came over here, satellite 615, API guide. Probably if you move it on to a different product, you will be able to see something like this, exactly like this. All right, let's return to satellite. Then we have this one. Let's suppose that I would like to do some sort of query, all right, or automation. And I would like to start simple. So I have my user. Those are my user lists or my users on satellite. And let's say that I would like to automate this process via API. So how can I do that? If you return to this documentation, let me close this tab, this one. That is user. So I can definitely type Ctrl F or Command F, search by users, and then you can see that you have a lot of users in this case. So you can keep looking for. I know that we have users over here. Here we are. So we can see users. And then I have my get, I have my post, I have my put and delete. Basically get will retrieve the information, post is going to create something, put will update the information, and delete will delete the information. All right. You can definitely click over here. Let me open in a different tab. And you can see all the options. Eventually you can say, okay, I like to play around with this one. I can click over there and I can see some descriptions. But the nice thing here is this. You can get your satellite URL, paste over here. Let me get this one. Let me copy this one. I can come over here in the end, paste, and now you can see that I'm accessing via browser, via web UI, that API endpoint. And then there you go. Now we do have this information, like the whole list of users on satellite. Okay, I have my total of 2, my subtotal is 2. Let me bump this one. The page is the first one, per page, objects per page is 20. My search, there is no search. I'm just retrieving all the information, and I'm not sorting. And we have this results, and underneath my results, I have my first user. So you can see the first block will be up to here. This is my first user. Then I have some information like first name, last name, mail, authentication source. The ID of this user is 4, as we can see here. And once we go to the next one, we can see similar fields, and the ID of this user is 5, by the way. Okay, how this can be useful, like we are navigating on the API, all right? Let me show another thing here. Let's click on API users. I can see some parameters or information if they are optional or required. So basically you can see optional, optional, optional. Like I can pass some information if I like to improve my search, but once they are optional, I can just omit, and then the expected behavior is this will bring all the information that I'm looking for. And for the search sake, I can use some fields. Like I can pass admin true or false, and then this will bring back only the informations with the admin attribute. I can search by auth source. I can search by auth source type, description, disable, first name. So this is pretty flexible, and you can see that. Now let's get one specific user. We can see that we have a different endpoint. Like before was API/API/users. Now you can see that I have my /API/users/column ID. So if I like to take a look here, check this out. My location ID is optional. I can omit, I can skip. Same for organization, but I have to pass my ID because this is required. The validation will be string, and that's it. So let's give it a try. I know that this user is ID 5, and here we can see that we have the 2 objects, all of them. Let me open this in a new tab. This is the same page as before, preview over here, then ID 5. Let's put pretty again. And if you take a look now, check this out. I have only the information about the second user. See, I have just one user over here, like first user. If we came to the next page, like the first one was admin and the last name was user. If we came to this, first user. This is the second one with the ID 5. So this is pretty neat because now you can see that you can browse your API just using your browser, all right? And this is pretty good. This is pretty amazing. If we do the same with this user, ID 4, we can just change the ID here and check this out. Now we have admin, user, and the information from the first user, no more from the second one. So can I just open my browser, point to my satellite, and collect this information, assuming that you are authenticated? Yes. Let me do one thing here. I will log out, and now I'm not authenticated anymore. So if I came to this page and refresh, look at that. I'm unable to authenticate the user. So I have no access. I need to pass one credential just to be able to collect this information, all right? So what now? How can I improve this or use this via CLI just to automate? We know cur. Cur is a command from your shell, your system. If you just paste this one here, check this out. I'm unable to authenticate the user. Same as here, same information. We are hitting the same API endpoint and we are facing the same response. We are receiving the same response. So can I pass some information? Definitely you can. My advice, anytime that you have questions about the command, use the man command. because man is your friend and will always help you. So for instance, man cur. Then you can press enter and you can see all the information, all the parameters, all the flags, dash dash data. For instance, we mentioned this on the video and also on the documentation, but here you can see how the data is used, some examples, some explanation, which is pretty handy, all right? So let's pass dash dash user. I know that my user is admin. If I like to omit my password, definitely I can. But if I like to pass the password, definitely I can as well. So let me type the password. And then we can see the results, all right? Wally, you mentioned that you can pass the password. Yes. So just add column and password. This password is just for the sake of this video, so don't worry. This is a safe environment, but I don't recommend you to set a password like this, okay? This is pretty vulnerable. So let's move it on. We can see that we have similar information. I'm just passing my credentials, and now I can see such information. You can see this is not friendly when trying to read. You can see like a bunch of things like this. So definitely this is when JQ came handy, because this can just parse this information and put this in a preview, as we can see here. Or if you do not have JQ, Python -m, let me clean up the screen, JSON.to. Sometimes this can happen. You can see, hey, Python, comment not found. Probably you have Python 3. This is the reason. And then there you go. Now you can see a similar information. All right. So again, I'm authenticating against my satellite using the cur. I'm passing the username and password. Wally, what is that? Because this is like a summary or some information. This is annoying. I would like to remove this one. This is from cur. And if you like to remove this from cur, definitely you can. If you don't remember, let's remember together. Cur, I believe something like silent. And check this out. We have -s or --silent. Here we are, silent or quiet mode. Don't show progress meter or error message. So definitely this is a nice thing if you like to skip that header or information that will not show during this process or when you are calling this command, all right? Okay, now we have a valid JSON over here, which is pretty good. And let me do this. Let me create API. Let's access this folder. Let's do one more call, because I remember I was looking for one specific user. The ID of that user was 5. We can see here. And I would like to use this as my example. I would like to, or my template, I would like to create a different user with the same parameters as this user. So let's take a look here. Let's suppose that I came to my administrator users, user 1. And this is pretty much what I would like to set. Like I have my email, my username, first name. This will be an internal user. I would like to pass my or set my password, one specific password. Let's suppose that I have email preference, organization, location, roles. Let's suppose that we have one specific or one set of roles, SSH key. Let's say that I would like to set everything similar to this user, all right? So I can set this user via web UI, for instance, because this is easy, simple. Once I have this one, I can return to my CLI. And there you go. We have the whole information over here. All right. So let me redirect this one to full info.json. here we are. We have this file. So let me copy this full to my new user.json. And then I can play with my new user.json. So if we take a look, let's put some numbers, line numbers. I have a bunch of information here. Hey Wally, do I need last login on, created at, updated at? Because my user will be created like in the future based on this date. So should I do this? Should I keep this information? My advice here, it is something like this. Let's return to the documentation. We are here. We are looking for to create a user. So let's click on this. And then we can see which information is required. So we can see that location ID is optional, organization optional, user is required. So I have my login required, first name optional, username, last name optional. So okay, let's do this. Required. So my login is required, my mail is required, the password is required, and the authentication source is required. So if you take a look, we have 4 fields. All those 4 fields are required. That's it. This is the basic steps. This is the basic information that I do need. So let's take a look. Login, mail. So mail, we have the mail here. Let me move this to the top. We have login. Authentication source ID. Anytime, if you have questions, you can return. Auth source ID. Okay. And finally, password. If you search by password, you will not find the password. And why is that? Security reasons. That's it. Basically, we do not keep the information, the password, like clear text if someone just go and hit or poke the API endpoint. The information, the password information is pretty secure internally, and that's it. So, okay, I have my mail, login, authentication source. Wally, can I get rid of all the rest? Definitely you can. Again, if your goal is to create a user very, very similar to this current user, I would not recommend you to remove everything because you can see the roles. Like this user has this specific role. If I would like to create a new users using the same role, definitely I would like to keep this information on this file. All right. But the sake of understanding and just to keep it simple, definitely I'm gonna remove it. Same for mail notification. Let's suppose that I have some mail notification already set to my user, and I'd like to set that standard to all the new users when using the API. Definitely I can keep this information because all the information will be here. Same for organization, same for location. You can see the for organization is null. Organization we have here, the full location. All right. ID, should I keep the ID? Not at all, because the ID will be created once you call that API endpoint. All right. All right, let's get rid of this. We can see like a hint over there, something red, something like say, hey, something is wrong. And this is nice. This is like a link that I do have on my VI. Eventually, if you do not have, let me show you this. We have new user. If I try to pass this to JQ, JQ is gonna fail because this is not a valid JSON file because of that comma. Now you know. Then we have the hint here. Hey, expected another key value pair at line 5, column 1. So if we open this file once again and set the line, what is happening is someone is expecting like a new key value pair over here. All right, I'll keep this one for now. There is another way that you can check this. JSON verify. You can use this, and then the JSON verify is gonna say, hey, something's wrong here. You need to fix. This JSON is invalid. Same way I can use JSON verify, receiving that file, and then same idea. Okay, we have an issue. Another way, though, Python. We know that Python here is not a thing, so Python 3 -m the module json.to. And again, we have a different issue because this file is not a JSON file. So let's fix the file. We can remove this, not this one. We can remove the comma. Like the last line, you don't need the comma. You can stop over there, remove the comma, and that's it. And now if we do a double check on all of them, we can see the output. If I'm using the cat, I can see the output. Wow, I did this twice. So JSON verify receiving, JSON is valid. If I do a cat redirecting this to a JSON verify, I can see also valid. And if I also use the GQ, I can also see the output. So now for sure, we know this is a valid JSON file, and definitely we can move it on. All right, can I use the same set of information? We know the answer, because if I try to create a user, user 1 already exists. But let's skip and see what will happen. All right, we are here to learn, and this is the best way to learn ever. So cur -- user admin password, and then I have my satellite endpoint. Waldirio, I don't remember which one. This one over here. API users. Don't forget the post, because we need to add this one as well. We need the satellite URL. This will come before the endpoint. There we go. And then if I like to change my verb, how can I do that? It is using the X in uppercase. If you want to know the X in uppercase, what does mean, please man cur and let me know in the comments. So post. All right, basically I'm passing the username and password -- user. I'm setting the verb here to post. I'm passing the URL or my server and the endpoint API users. Hey Wally, how can I pass the file? -- data. And from here, we have to be inside the API. We have this new user. So at and the file name. All right, that's it. Let's give it a try. All right, something is wrong. We have an internal server error. This is not as expected. What is missing? Again, anytime you can check our documentation. Let me put you straight to the point. We have one API just showing how to create a user. So, and I believe that is on chapter 4. So let's go straight to the point. Over here, creating a user. So basically, let me copy this one. I can paste over here. tmp aux. All right, so let's take a look on this one. I'm passing the cur, or I'm calling the cur. I'm passing a header. And then you can see we have one specific header. Hey, this is will accept application JSON. I have also a header content type application JSON. And then I'm passing the request. You got the response here, -x is the same as -- request, the kind of request. So we are passing the request post. We are passing the -- user, passing the username and password. We are passing insecure. Once I'm using satellite itself, I can't skip this one, but eventually, if you're using a different machine, definitely you can pass -- insecure. And then we have the -- data. Again, I'm not using a file, or in this case, they're not using a file. They're using the CLI to pass the whole information. And because of that, all those / here just to escape the double quotes. Okay, so we have the key, column, value, comma, and then we have the second key, column, the second value, and you can see mail, login, password, and of source ID. This information will be passed through along to this guy, which is the satellite /API /user. And there is a Python -m JSON.to. Wally, is this required? Not at all, but I will show you the difference. Why we are recommending this one. I know that I need just the header, so let me copy this one over here. I'll save this file. I'll put the same information, but now I'm gonna add -8. And then you ask, Wally, what is -8? Yeah, go on, my friend, man, cur, and then you can see this is the header. So we are passing the header. The header is styling the content type will be application JSON, and the endpoint when receiving this information, this header information, will know how to handle this kind of request. All right. All right, let's move it on. And then we have the response. So check this out. Let me bump this a little bit here. Let me rerun this command. Error, ID null. Nothing was created. Because of that, we have ID null. Error, login already exists. Password hash can't be blank. Full message, username already exists. Password hash can't be blank. Okay, we got the message, but sometimes this JSON can be like a huge output. This can be pretty hard to read. So because of that, in general, we do Python or Python 3, in this case, -m JSON.to. So let's see what will happen. Now we can see like in a fancy way. Wally, I don't like this. Can I remove it? Definitely, my friend. Let's clean up again. You do remember, I know, -s or -- silent, same thing. Then there you go. We have the error, the ID is null. We have the error here, login already exists, and this is right because this user is already over there. So my mistake, I would like change my code in order to set the correct information over here. All right. Another thing is my password is blank and cannot be blank. I'm not setting the password in this case. So username already exists, password hash can't be blank. So let's fix this. How can I fix? The login will be Wally. The email will be Wally at king.lab. If I stop here and try again, let's take a look. The file is the same. I just changed the file, updated the file. I'm trying to create this user and check this out. The user was not created. And why is that? Because the password can't be blank. The password is still missing. Wally, is the password a requirement? Let's take a look, my dear friend. We are here, post user. We search by required, login, mail, auth source ID, and password. Or yeah, password. Required unless user is in an external authentication source. So if your satellite is set up to authenticate an external source, and by external source we can do Active Directory, IDM, POSIX, or different flavors, different authentication source. Yes, in this case the password can be optional because the authentication will be made through those external source. In this case, we are using the auth source ID to internal. We are setting this as the internal. So yeah, we have to pass the password. And how should I do this? I can copy this guy over here. I can, let me do this over here. Password and password 1, 2, 3. If I do this, probably this is gonna fail. And why? Let me ask you this. So check this out. We have again some hints here, but let's skip that hint. We know that there is this JSON verify for the new user, and there it goes. Something is wrong. We have the reference. We have I expect a comma. So look at that. Some comma is missing. So yes, if you have any information above the last line or before the last line, in the last line the comma is optional. Above that line, not at all. You have to add the comma. So now the JSON is valid. All right. Okay, we added that line over there, and let me check once again here the list of users. We can see just admin and user 1. Pretty neat. Let's take a look. Check this out. First name, no. Last name, no, because we didn't pass, and this is right. I have mail. We set the mail because mail was required. Mail enable is false. We didn't set any of this. Like this is standard values if we are not passing them. So the satellite will set some information for us. Admin, should this user be admin? Definitely we can set this via API, but once we omit, this information will be false by default. Auth source was a required field, so we pass this one over here. Disable, we didn't pass, this is false. Auth source name, once we pass the auth source ID 1, this is the internal one. So we don't need to inform this because we passed the ID, but this is what this means, this is internal. You can see that we can set different information like time zone, locale, SSH keys, the full location. Check this out, ID. Now there is one ID. We didn't mention ID, and this was on purpose because once satellite is able to create the new user, the new ID will get created as well. All right, we have all those information. See roles. We have no roles, no user groups, no mail notification. This is amazing. So if we came over here and reload, there you go. We have Wally. Let me do one thing here to show you. Wally is gone, that user that we just created. I'm gonna rerun the same command, but I'm gonna remove the final piece. So let's remove the Python -m json.to and see what will happen. That's it. So as you can see, it is the same information as before. Eventually the ID got different. Yeah, but all the rest is basically the same. We have some additional information like created ads. This is a different time frame because we are creating this right now. But the main point is this is hard to read. Eventually, if you like to do some troubleshooting or see the response, definitely you can copy this, paste in a file and do a cat to JQ, passing through JQ or Python 3-m json.to. But again, I would like to see this live. So because of that, we recommend you to use that Python in the end of the line. So let's remove this once again. All right, let's say that I would like to set my username, the first and last name. So if we take a look here, we have this full info. Then I have the fields first name, last name. Again, this is a simple way. Once you have this information exported, you can copy and paste. But again, anytime you can return to this page and you can see what else can I pass, like the first name. I can just copy this information over here and paste over there. So let's do this. Copy here. Which order doesn't matter. You can put it in the beginning, in the end. That is okay. This is gonna work in the same way. So if I add my first name, I'm fighting a little bit with my keyboard. Okay, something like this. My first name will be Wally, first name. See, I have the hint again, but eventually, if you are not using Vim, or if you do not have this plugin, will be something like this. And eventually you can think, okay, this is right, this is okay, this is gonna work. Will not, believe me. So let's fix this. We know the issue here is the comma in the end of the line. All right, we have our first name and last name. Comma, Wally, last name. Okay, if we return, I can reload this page. There is no such user. Let's get out, clean up the screen. Let's call this once again. Yeah, I forgot to add the Python in the end. We can do it again, but let's take a look here. Now we have Wally first name, Wally last name. This information was created properly. Wally, should I be able to do this update like once the user is created, I just update the information with no necessity to delete the user and he create the user? Definitely you can. You just need to check the documentation because we are using post and post is going to create the user. If you like to update a user, you can use put. So definitely you change your verb. This is gonna be the attention point, and then you have to know what is required. So let's take a look at required. The ID and user is required, and all the rest basically it is optional once you are updating such information. I'm not gonna do this one right now because the main point here is to keep it simple, and I'm pretty confident that you were able to got the point. So let me just do one more thing. Let me remove this user. Let me add a Python 3 once again, -m json.to. And again, you can see the information over here. Pretty simple. Some parameters that we are passing. First name, last name, mail. The next one is login. So you can see that there is a gap here. May enable, admin, off, source, disable, up to login. All those information, again, they are from the system, like satellite is gonna add them, or the endpoint, the API endpoint is gonna add this because those information should be there. Don't worry because you don't need to fill out all of them. And if you need to update or create with some additional information, just take a look in our documentation and I'm pretty confident that you will be able to master this one. All right, this is amazing because now you know that you can do a lot of things via API. Definitely you can automate a lot of stuff using API, but let me give you a bonus. You know that in all my videos, I ended up giving a lot of bonus to you guys. I believe you are familiar with Hammer. Hammer is the middleman between the CLI and the API. So anytime that you like to do something on Hammer, you can do Hammer Shell, for instance. By the way, I have another video here in the channel specifically about Hammer, how to master it. Feel free to take a look, but this will be pretty quick. if I type tab twice, you can see all the options. And if I type one specific option and tab twice, I can see the sub options for that specific option. All right. So let's say that I'm looking for user. So user, create, and then I can see all the information over there. All right. So dash dash admin to say if this user should be admin or not. But let's do this. Dash H is gonna bring a lot of information. All the fields that I should be looking for to create my user. So let's try to create this user via hammer. Hammer user create dash dash login. I know that dash dash login is a requirement. If I just type hammer user create, check this out. Hey, something is missing because they are required. So we can start by our source ID equal 1. We know that this is the ID that we have, the internal one. And now there you go. We need dash dash login my user from CLI or from hammer. This will be my login dash dash mail my user at king.lab. Let's press enter. We know that we have some requirements. What did I, or mail, not main. And here we are again, like this guy is trying to hit the endpoint API and the endpoint just sent back the information. Hey, the password cannot be blank. All right. How can I set my password? Dash dash password and then the value. And from here you can see some required as well. So dash dash password, new password, 1, 2, 3. Or we can remove the double quotes in this case. Okay, this user got created. If we take a look here, we can reload the page. My user from hammer. Okay, no first name, no surname. I didn't pass none of them. So let me do one more thing. Let's create a new user, passing the same information, but now this is definitely a big bonus. And Wally, what is that? You can add it dash D. So my dear friends, dash D is gonna enable the debug mode on hammer. This will print out a lot of information, but this can definitely be your friend when thinking about API. And why is that? Let me scroll up to the top. Here we are. So you can see some loading. This is gonna access. You can see some loading. This is gonna check some information satellite. We'll load some additional modules and check this out. We have the server. It is satellite server itself. We have the request post to the endpoint API/API/users. We have that hash user passing the login, and here is the login. Mail, this is the mail. Password, we will omit the password, and auth source ID equal 1. And again, this is like a very basic structure or a dictionary, very similar to the one that we created in our conf file. Okay, once we pass this content to this API using the post, we have the response. Hey Wally, is this similar to the response that we got when doing the command via CLI? Same thing, same thing. So basically here you have first name is empty, is new, and this is because we didn't pass anything. And this is possible, or this will accept like a first name new or with no information. Same for last name. We have some fields here. We can see some fields here that are required as mail, auth source. In this case was auth source ID, and then the API will return the auth source name as internal. Login was required, and ID 17. We didn't mention ID 17. Again, the system was able to create this user properly and then return to us via API endpoint the ID that was created for that user. Organization, location, all the information. So again, this is a nice way to check how to do things, because anytime you can use Hammer and you can see how Hammer is handling things under the hood. If you like to automate or if you like to play around with API, definitely you can. My personal opinion, use Hammer. Hammer can do a lot of things for you. If there is any feature that Hammer is not able to do, then definitely you can open a support case and say, hey guys, I'm trying to do this one with Hammer, but Hammer cannot do that right now. Can you create this or improve or fix something here? Definitely we can. Some situations that you cannot use Hammer, for instance, let's suppose that you have your own application and you are a Java developer, or Python or Ruby, and you have your own application and you like to integrate your application with satellite using API. In this case, yes, there is no space for Hammer eventually, and assuming that there is no space for Hammer in this kind of situation, so definitely yes, you can do your call via API straight to the satellite server. But again, if you're able to run those commands via Hammer and see what's happening, definitely this can be a nice trick to see which APIs Hammer is using, consuming, and applying those changes in order to achieve your goal. All right. And if we return to this page, we can see now the new user. My user from Hammer, the first one, and this is the second one. All right, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. This was a very basic introduction about Hammer. As you can see, Hammer is very powerful, a lot of options, a lot of flexibility. And yeah, let me know in the comments if you are already a Hammer or API user, because again, you can do a lot of things. Don't miss the other video about Hammer, this one about API. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if you are already using API as well, and if you are facing some problem or if you have some questions. So feel free to drop the question on the comments below. And we also do have a Discord channel, so if you like to jump in and say hi, you will be more than welcome. And if you do have some questions about API as well, feel free to drop over there. We'll be glad to help. All right. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.